Alright, today's the day. We're starting on the 2017. First thing we're going to be doing is pulling off the hood, the fender, so I can get to the shock tower, strut tower assemblies to see where I'm going to start removing the crashed ones that are on the car, and then we'll be putting the new ones up in place. I have to detach some of the old metal off of those yet, which I'll show you them first before I get started. So let's check those out and then we'll get started taking apart the front of this Mustang. So there's my good shock tower assemblies that I pulled off of the other crash one that was hit on the side. I picked them up from Blast. Everything looks great on them. I also had them blast some of the original export brace strut tower braces because I'll be powder coating those as well. But as you can see, I got to rebend some of the brackets that were slightly tweaked on these. And also I got to remove the original metal. Like this is where it meets the firewall. I just cut around it to get them off of that old car quick. But I'm going to be going through there, hitting those spot welds, which is nice now it's blasted. I can see them real easy. Detach all that at the spots where I'm going to put it on the car. So first thing I want to do is pull the hood and the fender off so I can see them to get an idea of exactly how I want to do it. And then I'll start taking apart these to get them ready to go on there. Alright, the hood's off, fender's off, and I went in here and I started marking all the holes of where I'm going to be cutting out the old metal. And I marked it all with a Sharpie. So you can see where it's going to attach, and I'm going to have to detach it from the firewall on that backside. But for now I'm going to get off all those spot welds all around. I'm going to air saw around that so I can easily get to those spot welds then afterward. But my plan is I'm going to detach it from the aprons here, so all that top piece will come away, and I'm going to leave this rail out past this K-member bolt hole. So I'm using at least part of the original frame halfway through that K-member, so it adds some structure to it, so it's grabbing whenever it's bolting that K-member together. It's meeting the front new shock tower assembly with the rear shock tower assembly. So that's my plan there. And on the back side, I'm staggering that frame rail, the inner and outer, because it's going to be cut about here on the inside, and I'm going to cut it here on the outside. So the frame rail will be overlapped, so it's just not one straight cut. That's not what you want to do. And I'm also going to add some bracing inside of the rail that I'll plug weld together to add more bracing to it. And also on here, I'm going to put a piece of steel over that too, to overlap that weld after I do that. So I'm going to drill out those holes there where you can see I already did an 1/8 inch pilot. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to detach all of this metal so I can drop these front aprons off before I start on those ones. got the front end cut off. Now you can see what I was talking about with that frame rail, stepping it like that, having the inner come out farther than what the inner is going to be so they overlap when I weld them back together. So now I'm going to finish removing those factory spot welds for where the apron meets there, meets along the other panels also. Everywhere where that tower assembly was, you can see where I drilled the spot welds and the welds that were on the side. I got to grind that stuff down to prep it for the new ones to go in. So that's what I'm going to do now. Prep all those. I'm going to prep the rails to where they're going to get welded before we stick the new panels on. Alright, everything on the firewall, frame rails is prepped, ready to go. I have the new ones ready to go in. They're prepped. I just need to final fit them, but what I'm going to do is I added some holes here that I'm adding this bracket on the back side to weld to help strengthen these frame rails when they're meeting. So you can see I got it on that front face and the curve up. I'm also going to put one here on the bottom side too. So I'm going to go ahead and weld these in place onto the existing rail here and just leave that overhang spot for whenever I put the new frame rail on to meet up to that. So I got those both ready. I'm going to go ahead and weld those, weld in the bottom ones that I got to make, and then we're going to final test fit this front end on here. Front end's all mocked up. Everything fits just like it should. It'll need tweaked a little bit once I go to actually weld it, but just for the sake of making sure everything lines up and measures out right, just test fitting here just to make sure. So I just stuck the fenders on loosely to make sure everything lined up as far as the door to the fender out to these fender bracket locations. Just to make sure that everything there was lined up, I put the fender brackets on the inside to make sure that everything was good there, and everything is perfect. So next thing I'm going to do is take these back off, prep them, I got to clean them, and then mask off and plug any holes where the threads are, or mask off where I'm going to be welding on that back side and along the bottom of these aprons where the holes are that I got to fill. So once I do that, then I'm able to powder coat them. So that's what I'm going to be doing next. Take it apart, get it ready for powder coat. I got everything laid out that I'm going to powder coat. Everything's cleaned off. I got both tower assemblies, and I got a bunch of brackets here. Strut tower, support brackets, some fender brackets, motor mounts. So now that they're all clean, what I'm going to do is fill all these threaded holes. You can see anything that's threaded, which there is a good bit of them on the car. There's 4 up front there. They're all over. And what you don't want to do is just spray it with powder coat and let all that coating go down in those holes, because then you're going to have to tap each one. So I have a whole bunch of different sizes of plugs and caps. Like for example, this cap I would use to cover that stud. I'll push it down the whole way so it's seated, but that's what these are for. I'm covering that whole stud, so whenever I powder coat it, when it's dry, pull that cap back off, and you don't have to clean up any threads. So same as that, I'll take these plugs and put them into those holes there. So then once it's powder coated, pull it out, you don't have to clean it, everything's done on it, and it saves you a bunch of time. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. I'm gonna fill all these holes, and then I also have the tape, high temp tape, big stuff, small stuff, that I'll use to cover up where I'm gonna be welding. Like I'll just put a piece of tape over that strip there, so I don't have to grind any of this powder off, and it'll have a nice clean line, which then I'll go back and blend it with paint that I'll get. So all around, everywhere where it's going to be welded, I'll hit with this tape so there's no powder on those. So I'm going to do those now, set up the GoPro, and you'll see it all get plugged up. That's going to be it for this video. We got a lot accomplished. The old crashed front end cut off, new ones trimmed up, lined them up, made sure everything fit. The fenders were going to line up, prepped everything, masked off, filled the holes for powder coat. So the next video will be me powder coating everything. I have the pearl white, which I'm going to do the front tower assemblies, and there's also one other piece in there that boxes in the battery tray. That'll get powder coated, that white, and then some gloss black and the gold to match the wheels, which I'm going to do the export brace in that gold color. So look forward to that in the next video. If you like this one, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed. Appreciate everyone watching, and I think that's pretty much it. So we'll see you in the next video.